We also buy hardware, software for the stores and for the offices. And we spend a lot of money in store development, obviously, which is the main category I will focus on in this presentation. So which category is the biggest spend in Europe? So to give you an idea, I have a pie chart. The pie chart is afterwards. So the biggest category, the 30, is supply chain, mainly because we externalized the management of the warehouse. So you can imagine all the inbound and outbound merchandise that needs to be managed. So that is a very important budget. Marketing and media, obviously, is a big part of the investments as well, and store development. So that's the structure of, it's the org chart of the non-merchandise procurement organization. So what's interesting to see here is that here we have the EMEA marketing team. So we have a procurement team. I was reading marketing. So we have a procurement manager that is dedicated to marketing, another procurement manager dedicated to store development with an analyst to help, and another procurement manager in charge of all the other categories, mainly facilities, IT, and transportation, with an analyst to support the workload as well. So the three procurement manager reports to procurement senior director for EMEA. And we have the same team in APAC, based in Hong Kong, and the same team in North America. So the structure are the same in each region, and they support the different business in each region. Each senior director is reporting to a VP global procurement, and we do operate as a one team. We have regular catch-up all together. As procurement manager for RLSD, I have regular catch-up with my counterpart in APAC and North America, as we have a lot of subjects that can be global as well, obviously. So we're really a close team, and we really work together. What's also interesting to read here is that our global procurement VP is pretty close to the global CFO of the company. So the global CFO is the number 2 of this company. We have Ralph Lauren as Ralph Lauren is, let's say, the number 0, because can't be above, but we have the number 1, the CEO, Patrice Louvet, and the number 2 is the global CFO. So we're pretty close to the global CFO, and it's pretty convenient for us, as it gives a lot of visibility to our work. So we have regular meetings with the global CFO and with the attendance of the global CEO also sometimes. So they know what we are working on. They know the value added of our work, and they also sometimes ask us to work on specific projects. So it really helps, and it helps as well when we have bottleneck situation. They really help to solve some issues. So that's something to look at also when you want to work in a specific company. What is the org chart, to understand the possibilities and how it is structured. So let's go in a bit more details into the store development procurement manager role, and what's my role, what's the objective. Any questions? Should I pause here, Wannes?
Yep.
Okay.
No, I just tell them that I uploaded the presentation, so if they want to take note. Just one question: how many people are there in procurement today in Europe, for example? I know that there were a lot of changes.
Yeah, well, we've not that much in terms of number. So we used to be 4 managers, and we are now 3 managers. but we still have two analysts. We just opened a new position for analyst, and we are looking for our senior director.
Okay.
So in terms of number, we see the same. The team just switched from Geneva to London. Yes. So what's my role? And that is quite generic, and it's not only applicable to store development category, but it's pretty generic to what we do in indirect procurement. So our main task is to partner with the business. We mainly support the business to lead supplier selection process and contract negotiation. So every time someone from any business team is willing to commit a certain budget to a supplier, we will support them in the supplier selection process to ensure they put different suppliers in competition. They look at all the terms and conditions and they assess all the criteria to make the best possible solution. So obviously, we do not involve procurement in the same way when someone needs to buy simple goods for $500 and when someone needs to commit $2 million to a supplier. So there's a procurement policy in place that helps the business to understand how and when they should liaise with us to go through a supplier selection process, a strategic sourcing process. So we ask the business teams to always compare 3 different suppliers when they spend more than $25,000. And we ask them to partner with us when they commit more than $250,000. So we can lead with them a tender process, a strategic sourcing process. Then we are also here, obviously, to mitigate risk. Sometimes you identify that a business team is working with a supplier for a long time and they don't have any agreement in place and they may have some risk in the supply chain or regarding, about the context. So we have a great visibility on what people spend and how they spend their budget with which supplier. So we check the data and we're able to see whether there are agreements in place for any spend. So we can discuss with the business and legal to implement, to set up new agreement. We are also here to identify opportunities. So sometimes we identify cost reduction opportunities or consolidation opportunities. If a team is working with a supplier and we'll see that another team is working with another supplier but buying exactly the same thing, we can consolidate volumes and negotiate better rates with the suppliers. So that's what we do. That's our value added. And we're also here to source and qualify new suppliers. What do we buy in store development more specifically? So we buy millwork, which entails all the fixtures, furnitures we buy to present the product to the store. So shelves, table, ballet bars. We also buy flooring, deco items, flowers, mannequin, and we also buy services. So obviously when we are about to open a new store, we generally take a space that has been a former store from another brand previously. So we need an architect and a general contractor to refit the store so it looks like a Ralph Lauren store. And we also buy lighting design. So all the design of our store are made in-house. We have a team of architects based in New York. So this is done in-house. We also have a team of construction managers in-house that will go into and follow up on each new store opening. But we do delegate architectural services because this is quite local. We need people that have expertise in the local regulation. And obviously, we also delegate general contracting services. So which category represents the biggest spend? And I think that here I had a pie chart, yes. The biggest spend is mostly the millwork. So I explain what millwork is in a bit more details in few slides. And it's one of the biggest spend, mostly because it's very customized and quite a high end. So it costs a lot of money. Then it goes to construction, so general contracting company, deco items, and architects. So here it's just to show you the volume of store openings per year that we manage. So before 2018, the volume was really less. We used to open or renovate one flagship from time to time and few wholesale flagships in a year, and we were maybe opening or renovating 2 or 3 PFS stores. But since 2019, the company went through a new strategy to open more stores, and I go into more details in the next slide. So since 2019, the volume of store opening is quite similar to what we've done in FY20. So FY20, fiscal year 20, was from April 2019 until March 2020. So we opened 37 new stores. Most of them were Polo Jewel Junior stores, so a concept that I'll be developing in the next slide. But we also opened travel retail stores, which are small-sized stores in airports, outlet stores, which are big-sized stores outside of the city centers in specific shopping centers, and flagship stores, which are very few. We have very few flagship stores in Europe. We have 1 in Paris, 2 in Paris, actually, 1 in London. We just opened 1 in Milan. And I think that's it for Europe. Yes. So how do we support the business? Apart from negotiating contract and running tender process. And I take this example of the Polo Jewel Junior stores, which is very, very specific, but it gives a great example. So as I just mentioned, the top management decided to open a new concept store in 2019. The context at that time was that Ralph Lauren didn't have enough stores in Europe compared to the competition. So Tommy Hilfiger or Lacoste had a lot more stores open, so they were driving more traffic, so driving more sales. So they decided to open new stores. And at that time, we were only opening outlet stores or flagship stores. So outlet stores are quite profitable, but it's a sales distribution where items are discounted. And at that time, the strategy of the company were to sell more volume, but at a higher price. So they wanted to sell full price. So flagship stores were our only channel where we were really selling full price. So flagship stores are not very profitable. They cost too much money to open. So the business decided to create a new concept store, the Polo Ralph Lauren store. The Polo Ralph Lauren store is a dual gender store because we sell both menswear and womenswear. And it's a small size stores, usually in city centers or in mall location, but located in city centers. So that drives traffic into the cities. And it's full price. So the objective was to increase the footprint with more profitable store and improve visibility with a standard design with stores that were very, very profitable. As you can see, it doesn't look like a flagship. It's a white box, basically, with some deco, but it's pretty standard. So why?
One question.
Yeah.
How often do you have to refurbish a flagship or a store like this? So you said it's very expensive to have one. No?
Yeah.
But how often do you have to kind of revamp that?
It really depends. I mean, we've done Montaigne 1 or 2 years ago. We've renovated Montaigne, but Montaigne had been open, I think it was more than 15 years ago. It really depends because it's usually in very old buildings. So we can have some small renovation, or you can have partial renovation, because these stores are really huge. It's usually five floor stores where you have all the styles available in the Ralph Lauren brand. So you can also renovate just few rooms. But it's not profitable because of the location, basically, usually.
The rental.
Renting Avenue Montaigne, it's just super costly. Renting a 5-floor space in Avenue Montaigne is super costly. Then also because we hire a lot of people to work in the store to make sure we have customized services for the clients who goes to that type of stores. So it also costs a lot of money. And in terms of decoration, everything is customized. So it costs, more than 10 times a small Polo gender store. So it's not comparable. So yeah, it's not profitable at all, but it's brand image. So you have to be there.
And this is true to, you know, to say if it's true to all type of brands, or is this particularly to Ralph Lauren?
No, I would say it's not specific to Ralph Lauren. It's the case for all the high-end brands that have flagships in those kind of streets.
Okay.
It's the same for all of them.
Okay.
So what was the challenge for procurement with this new concept and the rollout of these new concepts? The thing is, the management wanted to open a lot of new stores very quickly. So the target was really, really optimistic. As I just mentioned, they wanted to open more than 20 stores for the first year. So there was a high volume of projects on a short period of time. A lot of new markets, meaning that we were opening projects in some location we didn't know. We didn't have suppliers available there. And there was a huge pressure on store profitability. So for us, we needed to ensure that we had enough suppliers to cope with the volume of project. So at that time, I don't know, we were working with maybe 3 mill workers. And today we are working with 7 or 8 mill workers, because obviously 3 mill workers were not able to deliver the volume of work we were about to have. We also needed to ensure that they were competitive, because the profitability of the store were not the same than the profitability of an outlet store or a flagship. So we needed to put pressure on our supplier. And and the question was also to understand whether they were able to deliver into the new location. So in Europe, most of the suppliers are able to deliver easily to any location. But at that time, we were talking about opening stores in Russia, for instance, and we know that Russia has very complex barriers to importation. So either we were facing to pay a lot of import costs, or we needed to find local suppliers to make sure that the store would stay profitable. But that includes having local suppliers, and we didn't have any supplier qualified on that market. We have the same issue now with Brexit. If we work with UK suppliers, well, for any other location in Europe, we'd better have supplier based outside of UK and keep the UK supplier just for the UK market. We had an example, for instance, with a supplier based in Turkey. We find a very competitive supplier, and we awarded him with a project I think it was in London. But we didn't realize that there was also a lot of import costs from Turkey to London, and that was prior to Brexit. So there's a lot of questions around that. And when the top management decided and announced that we were about to open more than 25 stores in the next 12 months, we had to partner with the business to make sure that we had the relevant resources in place. So I take the example of the millwork because the millwork needs to be qualified to work with Ralph Lauren. We can't just work with any millworker we decide, because the quality level of expectation from the team at Ralph Lauren is so high that we need to ensure that the supplier is able to deliver this quality and also to deliver the service we're expecting from them. So I show you what's exactly the millwork fixtures we talk about with millworkers. So these are women's room perimeter fixtures. Perimeter meaning that they're standing from the floor. So these are shelves or wall cases that we use to present products. They're all made from wood and metal. So we don't see all the details here, but these are very high-end products. They're all customized in terms of size, so they're all customized for each store to the specific size of the location. So it's all custom made. These are floor fixtures. So we have tables, we have ballet bars, all still in wood and metal. And these are the men's room fixtures. We're quite similar. And the floor fixtures. So these are when I say millwork, this is what I'm referring to. Big fixtures, furniture made of wood and metal that are all custom made. So we can't, as I just mentioned, we can't really buy big volumes of, like, I can't buy 10 shelves and 10 tables and stock them into a warehouse for the next 10 new store opening, because again, these are all custom to the location of each new store opening. And we don't know in advance what will be the size, and the size are not standardized. So it's very difficult to anticipate and commit a 12 months volume to a supplier. So that's why we need to buy each project. And we need to go through this millwork qualification process to ensure that quality will be standard across projects and that the supplier are able to deliver the quality we're expecting. So the first step of the process is obviously checking the competitiveness of the supplier, because we don't want to go through this whole process if the supplier is not competitive. So, for example, we know we'll have project in Russia in a few months. So we're going to identify a few millworkers in Russia, and first of all, we're going to ask them to price on a specific project based on drawings, and select one or two for the next step of the process. Then we share with them some drawing of the fixtures, and we'll ask them to replicate the shop drawings, just to ensure they are able to produce the level of details in the drawing. Then if this step is fine, we will ask them to produce sample finish, so samples of food with the right type of brush, with the right paint, the right color, with also samples of metal with the right lacquer, with the right finish. That process takes a lot of time because there's a lot of exchange, ping pong emails between the supplier and the team in charge. And then if the samples are approved, we'll ask the supplier to produce mock-ups. So we'll ask them to produce a part of a fixture, just to see the details of everything together. So for the approval of this final step, we'll all go to the supplier facility and check the mock-ups and check the facility and discuss and meet the supplier team. That's the process. It's a very long process. It usually takes at least 5 months. Again, because internally at Ralph Lauren, we have one single team that looks after the qualification of the suppliers globally. So they don't have much time to review the samples, send feedback, review the new samples, and etc. So it takes a lot of time. So that's the prototypes, the shelves, the wall case, and the pallet bar. And that's pictures of qualification process, the last phase of the qualification process when we go on site and we check the mock-ups and to validate them or not. Once the supplier is approved, well, we sign a contract to ensure that we have all the terms and conditions agreed, and then we'll ask him to produce a small part of a new store opening, like all the shelves, so we can check whether they are able to produce the quantities requested and also produce, in time, able to deliver in time, and able to communicate also effectively with the team in New York. That's 2 different mock-ups from 2 different suppliers. So these have been produced based on the same information, but just to show you that from a supplier to another, with the barrier of the language, they can interpret things differently. So that's why the qualification process is so important, that you can have really different big surprise at the end. That's it. Is there any question for now? Not yet?
There's one here, Alexandra. Sorry. There are rumors going around about LVMH buying Ralph Lauren. What do you think this would mean for the procurement department?
Yeah, this rumor is lasting for a long time. So I don't know, maybe one day it will happen. Maybe, I don't know if it's rumors or if it's ongoing discussion. I don't know. I have no idea. What will be, I don't know what will happen for the procurement organization.
I might have an idea.
Really?
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah, I don't think it will change that much.
No, because most of these luxury companies, each maison, each brand is very independent in terms of procurement. Okay, so probably not much. There might be some work to be done together. It might be that they're going to share with you some of the suppliers they're using.
Mm-hmm. Which is a good thing.
Which could, but it's not something that's going to make a big difference, at least from procurement point of view, because each maison is very independent, and their global procurement organization, it's very light and tries to coordinate a little bit the different brands.
And I think it would be very heavy to try to globalize procurement for each maison, and it would be impossible.
Yeah.
So no, I don't think there will be a huge impact. Not from non-merch procurement, at least.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Lucretia?
I was wondering if you could say something more about the difference in buying and sourcing services rather than goods, physical goods.
So, what's the difference, you mean?
Yes, but in terms of really like the process, because, I guess that these, for example, this process, the qualification process that you just mentioned, it doesn't work exactly the same when it comes to services and sourcing services.
Mm-hmm.
So how would that be different? Of course, like in your experience.
No, indeed, the qualification process is very specific to this category, as we're buying things that has an impact on the brand image. So that's why we need a qualification process to ensure that the supplier is able to produce what we're expecting to produce exactly. But when I'm buying a service, obviously I'm buying, for example, architectural services. So when we have a new store opening, the first thing we do when we know the location is to find an architect. So what I usually do, I check, I ask a pricing based on a standard scope of work. So what's the scope of work of an architect? The architect is supposed to, first of all, consolidate all the drawings and documentation to submit to get the right permits. Then they are supposed to consolidate all the documentation to make the consultation to find the general contracting company. And the biggest part of their work, their scope of work, is to do project management, because we have a project management team, but we don't have enough people in this team. So the architect is a kind of our eyes and ears on the ground. They will go there on a weekly basis to ensure that the works, the construction works, are going in the right direction and will be terminated on time. So obviously here it's a service, so we don't have qualification process. So we have a call with, if it's a new architect that we don't know and they never worked with our team, we have a call with them. We'll explain the scope of work. We'll ask them if they have worked on similar projects for similar brands in this specific location. And then it's just a question of giving trust. I mean, if their past projects, the level of quality of their drawings are satisfying, we'll take the risk to work with them on the first project. And then, well, if it has been successful, we'll work with them on future projects. So if we have a very strategic project, like a flagship, for instance, we never work with a new supplier on a flagship. It's too risky. So if we hire a new architect, the first project we'll give them is a project that don't have too much attention internally and that is not in a crazy location where we can have a big impact on our brand name.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Caroline, can you share what you said regarding the sourcing of the decoration? Because it was very interesting, how it used to be in the US and all the history.
Yeah, sure. So Ralph Lauren being an American brand, and before, I think it was, the procurement team at Ralph Lauren in Europe is not very old. It has been created 6 years ago. We had a procurement team in the US before. So because the deco team is based in New York, a lot of deco supplier was based in New York. I could say in North America, but no, in New York, basically. So they were buying locally, very locally. And our deco warehouse is in New York, so they were buying locally. So obviously, we clearly, very quickly identified that there was a lot of cost reduction opportunities to buy in Asia instead of North America. So we had a procurement team in Hong Kong that started to look for new suppliers, alternative suppliers. So that goes through a qualification process here as well, because we have to have Deco team approving what produce a new supplier. So they will compare what the new supplier will produce versus to what we were buying before, and they will approve or not the alternative supplier. So I would say that 4 years ago, we made a big move towards Asia for sourcing Deco items. The idea was to buy at a very reduced cost in bulk. So we were buying a lot of quantities in bulk, sending those quantities by sea freight in different warehouses. So warehouses in North America, warehouses in Asia, and warehouses in Europe. And then every time we needed some quantities for a new store, we were picking in the stock. But since COVID, and even before, because I think it's mainly because our store openings teams are always very late, so they always order very late. So most of the time they were they were doing air freight to order things from Asia, so it cost a lot of money. Obviously, you're buying very cheap something, but you spend a lot of money in transportation because you need it now and not in 1 month or 3 weeks. So we identify a lot of transportation costs related to the Deco items. And with what happened in the last 2 years, we also had disruption with suppliers, and it's not very flexible to source in Asia for project opening in Europe. So we are really going slowly towards sourcing locally again. So I think the aim will be to have European supplier for the European stores. And we also see the issues with the Brexit, obviously. We had a lot of suppliers based in the UK, and we were sending things across Europe, and we had an audit on taxes and freight costs, and we spent too much money on freight. So we had to find alternative suppliers in Europe for the Deco items. So yeah, there's been a transition through globalization and consolidation towards Asian suppliers, and now we're coming back to regional sourcing.
This is a good example of the way things are changing in terms of procurement strategy. And remember when we discussed about total cost of ownership in the first class in October last year, you might be buying cheap, so you're happy, but the company is losing a lot of money because someone else is using air freight to transport this stuff. So probably it would be cheaper to buy locally, paying a little bit more money, but saving money on the transport. Without talking about lead time, making something to come from China, about today, it's not coming. It's not a question of lead time. Today, it's in the past would be at least 3 weeks, almost 1 month. Today, you can wait for maybe months now.
Yeah, that's the issue.
Alexandra.
Yeah, it's just to bounce off about what you were just saying. So you say that it's more interesting now to source locally than to do it, than to outsource. Do you think this was a long time coming, or do you think it was accelerated by the pandemic?
No, it's definitely been accelerated by the pandemic. But I mean, it's something. It's